This is Steve Brown Arts Center Podcast Network, and we're here tonight with Dave and Lisa Lang, two retired teachers, two very active retired teachers from Independence. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Happy to be here.
So, there's so much to talk about. Found out beforehand, and we won't start with it, that you were an ultra runner. That interests me as well, but we'll get to that.
Happy to talk about that. It was quite an experience for me.
Yeah, I bet. But let's start. How did you both become a musician, get involved in music?
Well, starting with me, when I was in 4th grade, I started piano lessons, and then in 5th grade started on the oboe, and I just loved music, and started taking private lessons near Omaha in Council Bluffs, Iowa, with Lewis Kirk, who was my private teacher for many years. He played in the Omaha Symphony, and then I just loved it so much I knew I wanted to go on and become a band director, and went to University of Iowa.
I started my musical career in the Drum and Bugle Corps in Dubuque, Iowa, the Colts Drum and Bugle Corps. I started there when it was the summer of my 5th grade year, and I was in that for 9 years, all the way up to my freshman year in college.
That's really a well-known group, isn't it?
Yeah, they're one of the top marching ensembles in the country for sure nowadays. Back then, we were in the top 25.
Yeah.
I had a lot of great experience there, and I didn't join band until I was in junior high school. And by the time I finished 8th grade, I knew I wanted to be a band director. So I went to Dubuque Senior High School, and then went on to the University of Iowa. Got to be the Hawkeye Marching Band drum major for my junior and senior year. Got to go to some bowl games. Actually, being in the Hawkeye Marching Band, I got to go to the Freedom Bowl, the Rose Bowl, and 2 Holiday Bowls.
Wow.
And we actually got married in the summer of my sophomore year, so she actually got to go on those bowl games as my wife, and me being the drum major, so that was quite an experience.
Now, is that quite a competition to be the drum major, or are there a lot of guys that want to do it? Or?
I think so. Honestly, I can't remember how many people auditioned, but it's a pretty sought-after position. You have to have certain skills.
You have to be very flexible, I would think, the way you've been over.
Come to think of it, I didn't have to be that flexible. Okay. I wasn't flexible. But my thing was I wanted to be the drum major so that I could become a better band director, be more prepared to be a band director when I was done with conducting and leadership and all the things that are not spinning the baton and running around.
Right.
Sure.
I did all that stuff. In drum corps, I was around people spinning things, rifles, and things all the time. And I was a drum major in high school too, and we did some of that. So
is that the kind of thing you put on a resume? You were a drum major?
Yep. That was definitely one of the top things on my resume.
I think it would
looking
be.
For a band director.
So we kind of come from 2 different band or orchestra worlds, but we met in symphony band at the University of Iowa.
Okay.
That's where we met.
I was a freshman. She was a senior.
He tricked me.
That's true.
So of all the instruments that you played, what do you enjoy or what interests you the most?
Well, I've always been a euphonium player from the first time I started playing in band and drum corps. Actually, it's also called the baritone, so some people might be more familiar with that.
I have a grandson that plays the baritone.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was the euphonium, though.
Well, the difference between a baritone and a euphonium is simple. One is mostly cylindrical, and the other one is mostly conical. So the euphonium is conical. So a conical instrument has a more mellow tone. The baritone will have a brighter sound because it's more straight.
Okay.
That's the difference between those two.
And Lisa, what?
And I actually started on the oboe and kept with that all the way through college. And what's been fun since we've retired is we've kind of branched out and are playing some other not so normal instruments. We're playing the alphorns that we play, if you think Ricola, that instrument. And then we play in a German band now. It's called DTKK, Der Tiefen Kellerkinder, which is out of the Amana colonies, and they meet all summer long, all the way through Oktoberfest, and I play clarinet in that, so that's been kind of fun to do something different than my normal instrument.
We had a band director here for you, Lee Triplett, and he played in the band at the Manas. We went down to hear his Oopa band play, and he really, of course, he would play. He would take his horn anywhere to play. He just loved to play. Did you ever meet Shirley McKeish? No. She plays oboe for the New Horizons band, and she was my 6th grade teacher, and she's still alive, which I find interesting.
The Cedar Falls?
Out of UNI.
We just did we played our alphorns with the New Horizons.
Okay, and she may not still be there. I don't know, because this was several years ago. I said, but I've never seen any indication that she died. Yeah. So I'm assuming that, and I thought she was an old lady, but she probably was like 18 when I met her. And she said she remembered me, which I thought was very sweet. I said, well, I'm sure you don't, but that was fine.
So how'd you end up in Independence?
Well, let's see. Well, I had only 2 jobs before I came to Independence. And I started, my first year was at East Buchanan, so I was familiar with the Independence schools. Then I was at Central City for 3 years. And then the job came up in 1993, and I was there from 1993 all the way till 2021. So, but I really enjoyed my time teaching at Independence. A lot of great kids through the years, and some that are out there playing professionally now, and
some that are band directors now.
Yeah,
that would be a good feeling.
And then Lisa came to Independence.
I taught at Urbana first for 3 years before it had consolidated with Centerpoint, and I was the music teacher for the district. I taught K-12 band, choir, and general music my first job, so that was interesting.
Load,
And then I went to West Delaware for 9 years, where I was the 5th and 6th grade band director. And then when Norm Meyer retired, who had been here many years in Independence, he was the 5th and 6th grade band director, and I got his spot when he retired. And then we were together kind of as a team at Independence for many, many years.
That must have been quite a transition from doing that, everything for everybody to just being 5th and 6th grade.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. But I really loved that specific age level when everything is new, brand new to them, and every note that they learn is just so exciting.
Oh, sure.
And it's just a fun age to teach.
And Lisa was very, very good at the recruitment. That was one of the big successes for my program that helped us be so good. Is she was really good at bringing lots of kids in at the beginning level and getting them really taught well. So by the time they got to me, I just had to polish them a little bit, and then.
It seems that's the test for band directors: is can you keep a band? Can you have enough kids?
Right.
Yeah.
And for choir directors also.
Yes.
And a lot of times it's just the personality of the director that keeps the kids coming.
It is absolutely. Exactly, you're right on.
We went to a clinic one time at a bandmasters conference, and the person who was giving the clinic said, band directing is 90% personality and 10% knowledge. And I kind of believe that some days.
Is that something in your schooling to be a band director? Do they mention that at all or talk about that sort of
Not
thing?
really.
Any helpful
No.
hints? Or
No.
Okay.
In your involvement with band, I can remember hearing about trips that you took. What were some trips that you took your students on when you
Well, we did at Independence. We did a big trip every 4 years. So the first trip we went on a Breckenridge ski trip. That was an interesting. And then we went to Hawaii for the next 2 trips.
Wow.
And then Florida for the rest of the.
And do you play
trips.
concerts while you're there?
Yeah.
You play
And when we went to Hawaii, we played at Pearl Harbor on the Mighty Mo. Quite an experience for the kids.
I bet.
It was an experience getting them on the airplanes and off the airplanes as well. But we had a lot of experience with trips because one of the things we did right away after we graduated from the University of Iowa, the Hawkeye Marching Band director started what they call the Iowa Ambassadors of Music European Tour. And every 2 years they take a group of high school students, band and choir, on a tour through Europe for anywhere from 15 to 22 days, I think.
Yeah.
It's been.
We'd start in London, go to Paris, Switzerland, Liechtenstein for a stop, Austria, Germany, Italy, and played in most of those places, concerts, and it was great. And then we were fortunate enough to be what they call city coordinators one summer, and we stayed in Switzerland all summer and met the groups as they came through from other states. And then that's where the whole alphorn thing started, when he ordered an alphorn and had it specially made and then shipped to us. That's where that started back in the day. So
have you taught anyone to play that, or do you just do it yourself? Or?
It's just for us.
Just you. Yeah, okay.
Actually, when I've had the alphorn since I think it was 1999 or something like that. You know, back then the mouthpiece selection was very minimal. You couldn't find a mouthpiece that kind of matches what you play on your baritone. So I had this tiny little mouthpiece that I would have to play it on, and I basically gave up playing it for until I
20 years
until I retired. And then as soon as I retired, I did some research, and they make mouthpieces of all sizes now. And now I can make a really good sound on it, and I can get all over the horn. And
have you seen the process of making an alphorn?
I've seen. The guy who made my alphorn was Joseph Stocker. He has actually, there's some YouTube videos of his process of it. Back long before they started trying to make ensembles of alphorns, they made them all by hand, literally with hand tools, not mechanical. I'm not a woodworker, so I don't know all the terminology of what they would use, but yeah, it's. You can tell them how they used to make them.
Well, they used to make them, if you can imagine the Alps, and you have spruce trees on the Alps there, and as the snow would fall down, it would bend the tree and make that little crook at the end, and they just cut it off there. And they had to drill it out, by hand. And it's made from spruce, and then they wrap it in rattan to hold it so it doesn't crack. And played up in the mountains to do signals from across one mountain to another, or in the village to signal distress, or to have the goats or the cattle come home. That had a bunch of different signals for it, and that's how it started. But now it's kind of more... Now
that it's more of a musical instrument, people are trying to make little ensembles of small groups, and they really have to have the tuning exact in order for two people to play the instrument together without it sounding terribly out of tune.
We'll get the alphorn out before you go. What do you think made, and you talked about Lisa being such a great recruiter for you, but what do you think made your band program so strong?
I guess the biggest thing that we tried to do as we led our kids through the program is to make it kind of a family situation where everybody felt welcome and felt safe, and they could experiment and get everybody working towards the same goals and trying to be the best they can be individually, and then as a group we can be amazing.
Yeah. How about in choosing music, like for performances? Did you involve the students, or?
Never really want to involve the students in the selection of music. That's probably the number one thing that we work. We also are mentors to first and second year teachers, and that will segue you into.
Well, we find that a lot of the young teachers sometimes just bite off more than they can chew for their group. Want to feel that playing this great literature, but sometimes you just need to pull back, find stuff that's going to make your individual group with your instrumentation the best that it can be. And so you need to do a lot of research and listening and find, if you have a very strong trumpet section, feature them. But if your flute section isn't so great, then find music that doesn't feature the flutes, and just the music chosen that's going to make your group sound successful. And if it's a little easier, play it great. They're going to sound awesome. And kids know when they sound good, and they know when they don't sound good and with their groups, and it's just really nice to have them feel good about themselves and give a great performance.
If the piece says symphonic variations on Superman, you're probably not going to play it with your 12-piece 1A class 1A band.
Well, I have a grandson. He's in the 6th grade band at Johnston. And they have 2 bands. There are like 120 kids in each band in the 6th grade. And we go to hear the concerts. My grandson, you're not going to know any of these songs, Grandpa. But I'm always amazed. I don't know if you have anything to do with pep bands, but to go to basketball games or whatever, and the pep bands are playing the same 60s rock and roll music that they played years ago.
Exactly,
it's the standards that it seems like every pep band needs to know, and I'm always amazed by that. that.
I went to a grade 8 down in Ames. Tennessee was playing Vanderbilt. You know, they're right there, but they were playing in Ames, you know, to go to the Final Four. And my tickets were right above the Tennessee band. And it was just a joy. Every break they were playing Rocky Top. Oh my gosh! I mean, I loved it. It was great. You know, and you know, it was. And you were so fortunate to travel with the Iowa band. It was a celebration for him to be there.
I got to go on some trips with the Iowa pep band back in my days. I got to go to the NCAA tournament with the men. I think it was in Seattle in 1987. I think 6 or 7. Yeah, those were some fun trips. Yeah,
I'll bet you they are.
What's amazing to me, I went to Owine and led the high school band at football games, marching. And then after I graduated, 4 years later, I went to UNI, and my roommate was in the marching band. And so I went just to support him. I went to the first football game, and I was just amazed. They had the Panther Marching 100, and I was just amazed at the sound they had and the little marching around and making the designs. And I had no idea that they were doing that sort of thing. And then since then, I've seen the Iowa band. I've seen the band at the University of Michigan, which is a huge band, and hard for the field to hold them. But it's amazing to me how somebody could teach all those kids, okay, you go here and you go here,
there
and
is
you turn
a lot
around this
involved.
way. Oh man, I just can't imagine how hard it would be.
They have to memorize their music. They gotta know exactly what to do with their feet. They need to go from point A to point B and there's probably most of our shows that we did were up to 60 to 70 coordinates on the football field that they had to go from point to point and know the music that gets from here to there. And then if you think about it, it's amazing what they accomplish at the end of there.
I had a professor at UNI, and I wish I had written it down, but he said marching is one thing, playing a musical instrument is another thing. Whoever put those two together, and then they got bad after that. He was not a big fan. So.
And the marching and the pep bands are such a public ensembles and add such a great atmosphere. You know, they're just real fun for the kids.
You can't slight either of those things. I mean, I always tried to make sure that we had an equality between all of the different aspects: the jazz band, the concert band, the marching band, the pep band, all of those things. We didn't want any of those things to just be slighted just because.
It was different clientele. Listen to different groups.
So, as a high school band director, like a typical day, do you meet individually when you give lessons in small groups?
Typical day. Wow, there's long days. Okay. So most of my career, I started jazz band at 7 in the morning. So I'd have to be there at 6:30, make sure everything's all ready to go. Lessons up until the concert band starts, and more lessons, and we actually did a lot of team work together. I would be over for her elementary rehearsals, and she'd be up at mine for the high school band rehearsals. And of course, you have the musicals. You have to be put the band together. So that's all at night.
Marching rehearsals in the
marching
evening.
rehearsals in the evening, and on all of the weekends for the competitions. Sometimes we do 2 competitions in one day.
So perhaps and this is not meant to offend anyone. What was I'm bad at this when it goes to this question, Dale. Come on. But what was the toughest for you to teach, both of you, as far as band and music, and what drew you to teaching it?
Since I was teaching the beginners, just literally opening up their cases and putting their instruments together and getting those first sounds. And that was just so fun. And then when the light bulb comes on and they understand how to do it. But I would say the most difficult instrument to start, at least for me, helping the kids, was flute. It's very awkward holding it this way and trying to balance it on your lip and then getting the lips just right with the airstream. And so that was kind of a difficult instrument to at least start.
As band directors, you have to be able to demonstrate all of the instruments as you're,
and be very
more
proficient.
so for her than me, because by the time they get to me, she's already, make good sound on their instruments. And I always, all to the last day of my teaching, I had a fingering chart for all that. A little booklet that has the fingerings for every instrument for the
Trill
full range
fingerings and
for the
stuff.
full range of the instrument. I'm always referring to it because if you don't play it every day, you're not going to remember
The crazy upper fingers.
the weird fingerings. For
Yeah. So do you have a day in the elementary school where the kids can come in and just look at instruments and try them if they want to? And
We
that sort of
had
thing?
kind of sort of we had each class would come down and each student would try out all of the instruments, and then
Yeah.
I would recommend what would be the best for them according to a lot of their physical features, because sometimes just your mouth isn't set up for a certain instrument, and you don't want to start out fighting the instrument right away, and it won't be very fun to play. So
Yeah.
I try to recommend the ones that were the best for them, that they would be successful on, and that seemed to be a pretty good formula through the years.
Yeah, Lee Triplett used to come to my room and work with the kids when they were thinking about different horns. And if they wanted to be a percussionist, he'd slap his legs and they had to repeat what he did and this sort of thing. And he would just tell, you can't, you don't play trumpet, you can't play that. You won't be able to play it well. And so he would discourage them because most of the boys wanted to be trumpet players and the girls wanted to be
Everybody
clarinet or
wants
something.
to play percussion, it seems like.
Well, they have the most fun, I think. Don't you think? I don't know. See, they're in the back there, just crazy little thing, coconuts and shaking rattles. And
So,
I had two that were percussionists. So my kids. So
what is your most memorable venue that?
Oh, that's an easy one for me. During the 2018 and 2019 school years, the marching band got to go to the national championships in Lucas Oil Stadium.
In Indianapolis.
That was an amazing time for the kids to play in that facility and for all the these huge crowds, and it was also the most frightening experience.
Really?
Just the stress involved in playing on a stage that big.
Sure.
And all of the logistics of getting all of our... I don't know if you've ever seen the Independence Band, but typically we would have a lot of props and sound equipment and a full array of subwoofers and all the speakers and all the sound equipment. It's difficult to get wireless microphones set up perfectly in a big stadium like that, because there's the whole community's got taking up space on that. But oh boy, it was a great experience for the kids, and
they were just sobbing as they came off the field because they just were like, "This is the best experience,"
really?
And it was just so emotional and overwhelming to them to see this crowd, and they're standing up for them and clapping and playing in that stadium, and that was really cool to watch them do that.
I think that would be good for recruiting or whatever at school.
And we got 8th in the nation.
That's pretty good.
Which we thought was
our
pretty
little
good.
band.
Yeah.
A band of about 100, basically. That's a little band in competition.
That kind of competition. Lisa, what's your most memorable venue?
Oh, my most memorable venue. Now, for elementary, it's a little different because we don't go out and perform that much, but through the years, a few times the elementary band, we made it to the Iowa Bandmasters Conference chosen as the elementary band to perform for all the other band directors in the state of Iowa. So that was a nice honor, and just to go down to Des Moines but getting a bunch of 6th graders on a bus to Des Moines and back, and all the logistics with that is also kind of like similar.
They hate it when you leave a couple behind, don't they?
I know, they don't like that.
I got all these, but we need all of them.
It's interesting because, the younger kids sometimes are more easily distracted, and you just hope that they can focus long enough to do their performance. But it was really fun. I don't know if you remember, we had Robert Espy was a 6th grader at one point in my band, and he already knew how to improvise jazz as a 6th grader.
Wow.
And I featured him on that, and the bandmasters at the end of the concert just erupted and did an immediate standing ovation for that piece, and it was just so fun to watch him, and he just was, that was it then, he had gotten the bug, and he's been a real student to watch through the years.
I'll bet you,
Who was the kid that we had that was such a good musician and he went to Independence his last 2 years play?
We've had Christian Junker.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, Christian Junker, yeah. because I had him in second grade or something, and you could tell then he was very talented. And then, but he went because of the reputation your band had. He wanted to experience that, and so just remembering that. Yeah,
I think Christian works now at the University Hospital. Last I heard, his sister Bridget played basketball for me, and
we never really tried. Obviously, we just were teaching the kids we had.
Oh, sure. I'm not accusing you of anything.
Recruit.
No recruiting.
He wasn't the only one that.
I'm sure. Yeah,
and not just from Jesup.
Right.
Other area schools. If it was, a lot of times they just want a different experience.
Yeah,
and
that was all. Christian wasn't unhappy up here, but he wanted that experience. I think with a bigger band, more powerful
very
sound.
talented.
Clarinet
and tenor
maybe
sax
the theater
and
part
singing.
of it too,
Yep,
and that
the
sort of
theater.
thing.
He was in all of that stuff. Very talented kid.
Nice kid.
Let's dodge a little bit. You talked about ultra marathoning here. Let's talk about that a little bit.
How many can do that while they're playing the flugelhorn?
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, holy cow!
Yeah, I'd like to see you do that sometime.
Good lungs he must have.
Yeah. Tell us about how you got into that.
I was never an athlete growing up, or even. I didn't start running until I was 42, I think was my first time ever. I lost about 80 pounds, and then I got an itch to continue the running, because I was doing on a treadmill, walk, run for every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning to try to lose weight. And I kind of liked it, and then I went outside and ran around. Oh, this is kind of nice. And I just fell in love with running, and I did 20 marathons over a period of 10 years. Then I started getting the itch to go longer, so I worked up. I did some 50Ks and then some 50 milers, and then I had the biggest one I did was the 100-mile race in Wisconsin, and it's called the Kettle 100, Kettle Moraine Forest.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
It's up and down, those what do you call it? It's just a lot of up and down trails. It was.
And then also kind of out in the meadows, they called it, which was pretty brutal with no cover in the hot sun. And
she was my aid crew.
I was the aid crew.
I don't know if you know anything about ultras, but you get there's an aid station every 5 miles, so you can stop and get some food, and the time limit was 30 hours, and I finished it in 28 and a half.
Good for you.
What was your fastest marathon?
My fastest marathon was the lacrosse marathon. I think I did a 3:36 was my fastest. 3 hours 36 minutes.
We have at Jesup a math teacher. Alex O'Connell is his name, and he is in Guinness Book of World Records.
Really?
He ran the fastest marathon dressed as a ninja warrior. He did. You go to the Guinness Book, you'll see that. But he had to go through the process. Yeah. But he is a marathoner. And done 2 in my life, and my body, I don't have the technique. I can't run anymore. My body is too.
I'm
beat
having
up
the same problem these days.
Yeah.
Were you here when that Bedorden kid was here? Do you remember him? He ran across the United States.
Oh.
He was one of those ultra runners.
Yeah.
And he may have been before your time.
He was before my time.
But he got involved with running, and he did a lot of these, like run across Colorado, and
I think
he got clear across the United States. And this was back in the 70s, a long time ago. But
there's still people doing those kind of things. They're just trying to outdo each other.
Yeah.
It's too bad. We talked about how we don't have enough mental health beds. That's why all these runners are out there running loose.
Back to the ultra thing. The best thing for me was all the training. I just loved going out for those runs every day. And on a regular week, I would just do 8 miles a day.
Right.
And then on the weekends, you do 20 miles on Saturday and 20 miles on Sunday. And then eventually, we were doing a 20-miler followed by a 40-miler the next day. As far as the longest run we did before the 100 would have been like 40 miles.
Yeah.
Do you remember, and you both are approximately my age. You've weathered better than I have. But the University of Northern Iowa had a marathon class.
Oh, really?
And
interesting.
We during the Great Renaissance of art in Jesup, we would have speakers come in, and they brought in that class. Do you remember that, Dale?
I remember them having the program, but I don't remember any specifics. So,
and they trained similarly. To get into that class, you couldn't have run farther than 4 miles at any one time in your life.
Oh.
And they train by minutes. So like on Monday the first week you may run 20 minutes, and then Tuesday you may run 30 minutes, and Wednesday 20, and then you work your way up.
Yeah.
And I think they trained for 11-12 weeks, then they would run the Drake Marathon.
And I'm sure the goal was just to be able to finish.
Yeah.
Not to
that's
get
what
a
it was.
certain. Yeah. That was my goal for the 100 too as well.
Hey, I bet it was. So 28 hours.
It's
is
more of a
amazing.
mental game than anything else. So
Well, with the 100-miler, how many started and how many finished? It wasn't
I think there were 300 that started, and maybe
100?
it was a significant drop off
Yeah.
of people who actually
Like
finished.
maybe 100 and some finished.
speaking of pain, do you ever, when you play your cheek, if I blow up a couple balloons, my cheeks ache and hurt so much. I never played a horn or anything. And I've seen these trumpet players, where the one guy, his cheeks bulge out like this, Dizzy Gillespie or somebody. Do you work those muscles up where they can take a long session?
Well,
or?
if you practice enough, these are the muscles that are engaged when you're playing an instrument. I've never experienced any, but when I would blow up a balloon too, even when I'm in great shape on my horns, I'd get the same thing.
Oh,
It's not,
okay.
I think it must be a different.
Well, my wife
set
could
of
blow up,
muscles
like
that
you have a
does
little birthday party
Yeah.
for, 15, 20 balloons, and I got one, I just have a hard time. I don't know.
I understand. So,
Yeah.
Lisa, what have you been doing, or what did you do outside of music for your hobbies?
I'm really into genealogy, so done a lot of family history, genealogy, and big into the DAR, Daughters of American Revolution, Mayflower Society, and
So your family's been here a while.
we've been here
Yeah.
a while, yes. And it's just like a puzzle, but it's about your family and figuring out, and you see all these different histories and all the things that people do.
Yeah.
And I'm very into that. The DAR is one of my main things that I work on and do. I'm the pianist for the state conferences, so I play the piano for that. I've entered, last year, I entered the American Heritage Contest that they have. It's a national contest, and it's for the arts. And so there's like watercolors and quilting and doll
Painting.
making. There's paint, different, oils and pastels and all the different. And there's music category, there's drama category. I entered the instrumental music category, and I won it last year, the national competition.
Wow.
And
for composing.
for composing a march. You had to do a processional or suitable for a processional and write it on piano. And I sent it all in, and I got an email back and said I'd won first place nationally. So that was kind of a fun thing. And so I've gotten into that, and I just really enjoy being involved in those. I'm the state secretary for the Mayflower Society, and those are the things that I love to do. And I'm a crazy cat lady.
Oh.
And so, if you want to know, I have a cat.
Only one?
2 cats.
Oh, 2 cats.
But only
But he
one that
has-
has an Instagram.
He has his own Instagram account, and he has over 15,000 followers.
Oh.
So everyone should follow Lewis_the_C-Rex. Lewis the C-Rex. He's famous. I think he's famous.
Well,
So-
15,000.
How do you feel about this cat?
I love the cat.
Oh, do you? Okay, all right.
You better.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, and you answered. Have you written other music? Either one of you?
I do a lot of arranging, but not original stuff. I find it much more difficult to pull something out of your head and start from scratch. I like have a song and then create something with multiple euphoniums or multiple alphorns, and then I record them in my little studio at home and put it together. And
have either of you ever been judges at the Bill Riley State Fair Talent Show?
No, we haven't.
Oh,
no.
But we do a lot of judging.
We have one every summer.
Oh, yeah?
I will give your name to the lady that does that.
We judge. I judge a lot of jazz festivals and marching band festivals and concert and solo ensembles and
do a lot of judging.
Yeah. And when my kids were small, we used to go to the marching band competitions around here. It was very interesting. I was a new experience for me also. And sometimes you only have 12, 15 kids in a band, and it's amazing what they can do. Then you have a bigger band, of course, and they do more interesting things. But I learned a lot in my old age. Yeah.
What are your plans coming up as far as any big plans? I mean, obviously you have judging. You're involved in multiple groups, and do you have any big plans, trips or anything like that planned?
Well, the main thing that we do right now is Lisa's mother is living in Independence, and she's 96, so we spend a lot of time with her, and
that's fun.
Just playing in the groups that we play in. So we'll do some more traveling.
We've done a lot of traveling through the years, and sometimes it's just nice.
College days, so.
Eventually, we'll travel without 500 students.
Is it hard to travel with if you wanted to take your horn with you? Would that be a problem these days?
We drove.
I mean, if you fly, I'm sorry, I think about flying. I guess
I've taken my horn. When we went to Europe and smashed a couple times, a little dent here and there, but it hasn't been a big. I'm going on a flight competing in a euphonium competition, a national euphonium competition in a couple weeks here, and I haven't been on an airplane with my horn since like 2006.
Oh, so it'd be different.
Yeah.
Might want to buy a seat for it.
We've done lots of traveling. We've been to all 50 states and been to several national parks, and we've done a lot of traveling. So right now we're just kind of taking it easy. And
I think that's great. I think you're living the good life. That's great.
We love
bike riding.
Oh yeah. We went out on the trail for the first time on the Cedar Valley Nature Trail for the season yesterday. On the stretch from Brandon to LaPorte City is our favorite chunk.
Yeah, I ride that. That's fun, and I've taken kids on that too.
Yeah.
My wife taught Doug in her class. All the fifth graders would go over there at the end of their bicycle unit, and I'd go along with them. They would ride that, right from LaPorte to Brandon, and have a little lunch, and then ride back. And that's a nice path.
It is.
It's got the tree. Well, probably not now, but it's got the trees over canopy the trail. And, you know about it. So. But it's very nice out there if you want to try something. So
it amazes me. We used to take teams to Europe to play basketball. To Moscow and to Ireland, and we'd take 15, and that was a lot of organizing, and I can't imagine 100.
With all their instruments.
Yeah, with all their instruments.
And all
Well, we took
and their uniforms.
Oh yeah.
the Europe trips that we took the kids on was anywhere between about 300 and 500 kids. So
we'd have like 6 or 8 buses over there, and we'd be in charge of one of the buses. And
do you have like a band mothers group or something that helps with money or with bodies fundraising or else even chaperoning or that sort of thing? Or
not for the European tour, because that was individual things. It hadn't have anything to do with our school.
Oh, okay.
But the schools the band directors had to recommend their students, and then they either go or they don't go.
Yeah.
But on the band trips with the school, we were doing fundraising all the time to help the ones who. I mean, they don't have to fundraise; they can pay for it all. Or
sure. Yeah.
They can. Try to offset the cost by selling some chocolate or some pizzas or
butter braids.
Butter braids. And a lot of kids paid for their whole trip doing that.
Yeah.
Those ones are really.
And nowadays it take quite a bit per student.
Yeah, they would. Yep.
Well, let's get the alphorn out here. And let our audience see that.
you.